We all have that one type of player that just makes us want to tear our hair out. Today in this video, I'll be covering the 10 most annoying types of enemies in Warzone. Welcome back to Warzone Central, let's get into the video. Number 10, enemies that spam explosives. Explosives are great, and they can be used in lots of different tricky situations to get the player out of a tight spot. However, it can be quite annoying when the enemy is using them constantly, especially if they happen to have a reserve of them throughout their squad or the building that they're in. Explosives can get annoying when the enemy is throwing a variety of the player, such as gas grenades and decoy grenades, because there will be so many things going on at once on the battlefield that the player won't know what to hit them. Grenades can be common, however, spamming them is something that only annoying players do. Number 9, enemies that are constantly in a vehicle. Enemies that are constantly in a vehicle are difficult to hit and pose a risk to the player because they can potentially run them over with little effort. Running a player over in a vehicle is one shot, and as such, players constantly fear for their lives when they are in an open field with vehicles nearby. It is also extremely difficult to hit enemies that are riding in vehicles if they're moving in the opposite direction, or even if they're coming straight for the player. The best way to deal with this annoying player is to take them out by using explosives. Number 8, enemies that follow players while they're landing. Enemies in Warzone that follow players around right after they jump out of the plane are one of the worst types of players in the entire game. Sometimes these enemies will even attack a player midair, using their pistol to deal damage while the other player can't fight back. This tactic may be smart, however it's also very cheap, and many players do not have any respect for enemies that follow them just to get a quick kill. This issue unfortunately plagues every type of battle royale game because it is possible to see where the players are landing. Number 7, skilled sniper enemies. Sniper rifles can be very fun to use, and this is no exception in Warzone. After a player hones their skill, they can usually get quick kills using the sniper rifle, especially if they are close by their enemy and they are in an open area. However, for other players, it can be frustrating when there is an exceptionally skilled enemy sniper in the area because all the other players will be easily shot down without a chance to defend themselves. Snipers are impressive, however. They can also be one of the most annoying things to deal with in Warzone. Number 6, enemies that use decoy grenades. Decoy grenades are one of the best weapons that players can use to trick enemies and get easy kills. Although these unique grenades are extremely fun to use, it can be especially annoying if an enemy uses them all the time and has more than one in their inventory. This issue occurs because when there are multiple decoy grenades active, the player won't have any idea where real gunfire is coming from, and they will probably be quickly confused, which will result in their death. Number 5, enemies that force their teammates into risky situations. This is more of an annoying teammate issue, however it can also be frustrating when it is clear that the actual enemy that wants to attack the player is hiding behind their friend. A lot of players decide to trick their friends or random teammates into going into dangerous situations for them so they don't have to risk their lives. This is one of the worst types of players in the game, and it can be frustrating for other squads because one enemy will be standing back either sniping using a scope weapon to take out the other player while their teammate is distracting them. Number 4, enemies that run players over with a helicopter. Running players over with helicopters has become an unspoken sign of lack of skill because it is a frustrating thing that only players with no remorse will do to their enemies. It is even possible to run players over with a helicopter while they are still in the air, and as such, many enemies decide to grab a helicopter and then fly through the air, killing enemies that haven't yet landed. This is one of the absolute worst ways to die in Warzone, and it comes as no surprise to anybody because most players have experienced it at least a few times. Number 3, enemies that pretend to be AFK in the gulag. Some players decide to pretend to be AFK within the gulag so they can swiftly take their enemy out after tricking them. This tactic often works, especially because players are often prone to messing with their AFK teammates or enemies. The enemy will distract them with the idea that they aren't at their PC or console, and then start shooting once the player comes close to them. This strategy is effective, however, it also shows a lack of skill on the enemy's part. Number 2, enemies that hot drop and only care about getting kills. Occasionally, enemies will hot drop just to get kills, and that is frustrating for the other players within the area because they will be at the mercy of a player that doesn't care about strategy and isn't trying to defend themselves. This may sound as though it will be easier to take out the enemy because they won't be trying as hard. However, the enemy will also be more reckless, which will result in easier death for the player. Enemies that only care about getting kills can be frustrating to deal with, and sometimes they'll even be willing to sacrifice their in-game life to take out the player and their squad. Number 1, camping enemies. Camping is a major mechanic and strategy within FPS games, and it's been that way since the beginning of the shooter genre. However, Warzone has many different spots for players to camp, and the large buildings within the cities in the game can get quite frustrating when players are trying to maneuver with them and end up getting easily killed by hiding players. Camping isn't a bad thing, and it's an important strategy to employ when trying to win a match of Warzone. However, it is also one of the more cheap strategies in the game, and some players overuse it to a ridiculous degree. This brings us to the end of our video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit like if you did, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our videos in the future. Also, watch the 2 videos that are on your screen because I'm sure you'll love them. With that, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.